or heated houses. We have 20-meter rows, and some of that's the highest value crop productions. You'll see the cucumbers on the left-hand side and students in among those cucumbers. Our market garden plots are 30 meters long. That's in the center. And our field crop plots are about 100-meter rows. So that's on the right-hand side. And this is a breakdown of the value generated from these different environments. So first of all, notice the orange bars versus the blue bars. The orange bars are crops that were grown in the high tunnels. And our average value generated in the high tunnels was about $35 per row meter. And then the average in outdoors was about $11 per row meter. So there's a real benefit, I suppose, to having the protection of those high tunnels. And in those tunnels, we were growing things like peppers, ginger, eggplant, cucumber, tomatoes. So warm season crops really benefited from the extra heat that we were able to capture with the plastic cover. And then on the far right-hand side, you'll see some of those field crops, the lower value crops that were growing in the eastern portion of the lands. I really want to emphasize the resilience of the lands. So I have images here taken July 6th and November 17th. July 6th was just after the heat dome subsided, and that's inside one of the tunnels. You'll see one of our students harvesting tomatoes. In fact, I think she's harvesting heritage tomatoes grown by the Steves family. We had some Mikado and some of the, we had about 4 different varieties from that the Steves family has conserved growing there. Even with the heat of the heat dome, the passive ventilation system worked very well. We never saw temperatures exceeding about the mid-40s inside that structure. And we saw very little delay in flowering or crop set. So very pleased with the way that functioned. The other 2 images are November 17th. So this is the day after the atmospheric river subsided. And what you'll notice inside that high tunnel is perhaps a little weedy, but it's certainly dry. And we were able to keep farming right through that extreme weather event. Here are some images taken end of 2020, middle of 2021, and then the end of 2021. What I want you to notice there is this changing position of the high tunnels. So through 2021, we had 2 positions that we could move the tunnels to. And so we had an area dedicated to warm season crops and an area dedicated to cool season crops in each of these. At the end of 2021, we added more track to this system. So we now have 3 positions that the tunnels can shift to. I want to speak to our efforts to promote biodiversity in the farm, both through a diversity of crops, and you saw that with the 40 crops that I showed you earlier, but also, we're really emphasizing cover cropping, which is why the lands look so green in the middle of winter time. I hope you won't see bare soil out there. We're looking for, we're trying to create habitat for pollinators and ground beetles that help with our pest management. The city has put bird houses around the perimeters of the property, the license area, and we're very pleased with that and with the predation that the birds provide. We have established what are called beetle banks, perennial strips all around the lands and through the center in order to create some perennial habitat there. We're growing heritage crops where we can. We're participating in, participatory breeding efforts. And our faculty member, Dr. Alex Lyon, is coordinating some of that, those efforts. We are emphasizing perennial plantings and breaking up our annual cropping systems with perennials and really making an effort to remove invasives like blackberry, reed canary grass, morning glory that want to move into some of these perennial zones. And of course, we're trying to engage the community. We've encountered some challenges because of the second year of the pandemic, but the farmers market itself has provided endless opportunities to connect with customers and to teach a little bit about what we're doing at the lands. We've had many opportunities to have informal conversations with our neighbors who walk the lands or photograph the lands. People are really curious about what we're doing. Our students are engaged in a variety of research projects with stakeholder groups. We have not had gatherings because of COVID, but we've been able to host virtual tours, such as a video tour that was produced for the BC Seeds Gathering that occurs every other year and was virtual in 2021, or a virtual tour that I did live with Premier Horgan and several MLAs at the lands last March. We've also offered twilight tours, which have been small groups that have come and walked the lands. And we've been working with the Garden City Conservation Society, including an effort this coming Saturday to transplant sphagnum from an area in our license area out to the bog restoration side on the eastern portion of the lands. And finally, I'll mention our KPU's participation in the Feed BC initiative, which is a provincial effort to increase consumption of foods within institutions, BC grown foods within institutions. And as part of KPU's signing on to this effort, they have committed to purchasing a substantial portion of the food served in the cafeterias from the student grown produce from the Garden City land. So we're really hoping to close this loop, to get the food growing on the lands into the campuses, and then also to bring waste from the food services back onto the lands to compost and close those nutrient loops. A recent initiative, then this is an initiative of my colleague, Dr. Rebecca Harbut, has been the Learning Garden. This is 14 raised beds that have been recently constructed north of the Dome greenhouse. Some of these beds are designed to be wheelchair accessible. And really the purpose of this effort is to build relationships with grade schools, with community partners, and with volunteers. So there's curriculum being built or being created in association with this learning garden, and the garden is being planted with the curricula and particular learning outcomes in mind. And the effort then is to be able to host school tours and engage with our local schools. Brent will talk in more detail about our next steps, but one step is to move into the remaining license area. So we've been farming 3 hectares in phase 1 of the license area, and we expect to expand into phase 2, the remaining 5 hectares of the license area shown in gray on the map on the left. We've been engaged in a facilitated design process, planning phase 2 of this project. And so I won't get into details about the plan apart from saying that I've labeled the pieces with A, B, and C. A being field crop blocks, strips of annual and perennial crops. B being a polluticulture study. So this is agriculture in wet peatlands and trying to learn about and demonstrate sustainable production on peat, and C being a food forest. The expectation is that for blocks A and C, the soil will be spread over the peat. With the peat, the carbon that's been sequestered in that peat should remain below, and that peat can remain wet, so we can keep the carbon in place, just as has happened with phase 1. And there's a fair amount of temporary infrastructure that has been brought to the Garden City lands, so coolers and processing area, then a tent, an office, ATCO trailer. Our hope is that all of that will be consolidated into a permanent structure, and we'll hear more about that plan, the barn plan. So I want to thank you for your time and attention this evening. But beyond that, I know that I and my students want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to work on these lands. It's been a very valuable learning experience for our students. And I should say that as KPU has been almost entirely online over the last couple of years, our classes have been some of the few that have been able to continue in person because of the low risk of disease transmission in this outdoor environment. If anybody wishes to contact me, my email and phone number are on the slide, and I would invite any questions.
Well, thanks, Mike. Thanks very much for the update, and certainly fantastic to see this happening. Does anybody have any questions? I don't see any hands up. I do have one, and with your movable greenhouses and what you're teaching there, when your students graduate and go to incubator farms or find a farm elsewhere, are they able to get land that they can lease it and actually carry on with this type of production? We're facing a world food shortage, and what you're doing here is really far ahead of in terms of feeding the population. I'm just wondering what happens after they leave.
Yeah, I think you raise a really important question. When I look at where my students are going, many of them go to the interior where land prices are a little bit less, a little bit lower. Those who stay in this region, yes, they are leasing land or they're managing existing farms. They are not, not purchasing land. I don't think that it's possible to purchase land at current land prices and pay off that mortgage through the yields of agriculture here. I find that my students are really their trajectories have been really interesting. We certainly have people managing farms in this region and on the island and in the interior. I have some who have purchased land. And then I also have students who have gone into nonprofits, who have gone into government, who have gone into food services and food distribution. So the post-farm gate element of the food system, and students who have gone on to graduate school. But regardless of where those students end up, whether they're farming or not, I want them to know what's involved with agriculture, to know what it means to get your hands dirty and what it takes to produce a crop.
Okay, that's fantastic. It's certainly very much appreciated from our side. That's the vision we had, and you guys are following through really, really well. So thanks for your presentation. And next we'll go on, I guess, to Brent Elliott and talk about the barn. You got to have a barn, you got a farm.
Good evening. And I'll just get my presentation set up here. Can you see the red screen?
Yep, we got it.
Wonderful. Love it when technology works. Good evening, and thank you very much again for this opportunity to share with you and present to you some of the exciting projects that we're in the planning stages for as they relate to our KPU farm on the Garden City lands. By introduction, I am Brent Elliott. I'm the Director of Campus and Community Planning at Kwantlen Polytechnic University. And I'd like just to pause quick in the presentation here and just acknowledge again that at Kwantlen Polytechnic, where we work, where we study, where we live, and over all those lands, they overlap with the unceded, traditional, and ancestral lands of the Kwantlen, Katzie, Semiahmoo, Musqueam, Tsawwassen, Kikite, and Coquitlam nations. So again, I'm really excited to be here today and to share with you some of the project planning that we are starting to undertake related to our KPU farm. Mike's touched on a bit of it, and I can go into it in a bit more detail. But this all dated back to May of 2021, where we were happily informed from our Ministry of Advanced Education and Skills Training that we would be receiving additional capital funding through as per our capital 5-year capital plan, funding that is earmarked for improvements to security and infrastructure across all of our 5 campuses. As they relate to the KPU farm on the Garden City lands, and working closely with the Department of Sustainable Agriculture, a number of projects were identified, such as bringing power to the site, bringing internet connectivity to the site. But importantly, and what we're here to talk about mostly today, is the opportunity to create a new barn structure on the site to really improve the farm operations. So with that in mind, we reached out to the city, to Alex and to Magnus, and started to work with them in June of last year to really understand what a process for this barn structure might look like. A process that will be consistent with the legacy plan, as well as consistent with the license to use agreement, respects and reflects the ALC regulations, and of course follows the standard city's permitting process. Why do we need a barn? As Mike mentioned, we have a number of temporary structures across the site. As you can see, there's limited weather protection. Right now, there is no internet or power to the site, permanent power. And unfortunately, not everything can be secured. And so some things have gone missing. There have been some thefts on the site. So with this capital funding, what we're hoping to do is, like I say, is to secure the site and to take away some of these temporary structures, the tool sheds, the trailers, these kinds of things, and to replace those with a more secure and a more prominent barn structure. I think in doing so, it would also then start to clean up the property, but it will start to implement and put in a stronger presence for the farm on the Garden City lands, and really start to demonstrate how KPU is implementing or furthering implementation of the park development plan. And you can see here, as you can see the little red circle, there was always anticipated some kind of structure on the KPU farm. And so as Mike mentioned, in our own planning for the KPU farm, and as we rationalize the different plots and fields, we've tried to keep where this barn might go consistent with the park development plan. So we have started some preliminary planning, and we started very early trying to think of precedences that we could point to that could act as architectural inspiration, and these are two that we looked at. And then in the next few slides, I just want to share with you, and you saw a little snippet in Mike's presentation, just some really early day renderings of what this barn might look like. And just to orient yourself, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but off to the kind of upper right-hand corner is Garden City, and the lands down kind of ends just in parallel to that, or perpendicular to that. So this would be facing west, if you would. So, and you can see that this would sit, as we said, consistent with the park development plan. It would consist in a kind of a central location to the operation of the farm, close proximity to the high tunnels and to the dome. And really just, as I say, start to provide that presence on the site. Which in many ways could start to really create that strong agricultural presence on the Garden City lands, a presence that could really kind of juxtapose that agriculture in the urbanity as the city center builds out. It's also a great way to kind of terminate that kind of Lansdowne street end view, a nice way to punctuate that and really again punctuate the importance of agriculture on the Garden City lands. But having said that, I recognize we are early days. There's much work that still has to be done. We've just done some conceptual renderings and some ideas on siting. But we are set to undertake later this summer and fall to release an RFP to pick up the architectural and consultant team. With hope, we'll be working with city staff through the fall and into the spring on permitting. If all goes well, we'll hopefully start construction in 2023, and we do have a requirement from the province to be completed to use the money by 2024. So we're really excited about this opportunity, and we're happy to share that with you today. I want to thank Alex and Magnus for their insights and for their guidance to date. Thank you for this opportunity to present this exciting project, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you again.
Okay, do we have any questions about the barn? Michael?
Yes, thank you, through the chair, to Brent. My question is about, I know, early renderings and early planning stages and design and all that. But the question is about washroom facilities for the public. I know there is a proposal that went to the ALC right now, which potentially includes a separate washroom facility at the north end of the lands. Do you think that this barn could have an exterior door that the public could use, and it could be on a timer like other city washroom facilities at Terra Nova Barn or the Richmond Nature Park? There's washrooms, simple washrooms that are accessible for the public up into kind of the dusk time. So do you think that would be conceptually part of this barn structure?
Thank you for that question. I certainly think it's something that we could, consider in the planning. Like I say, we're early stages. I know that's something that we've discussed with Alex and Magnus in terms of, potentially finding a synergy there. Obviously, there's budget and there's cost sharing that would involve. So there's much discussion left, but that's certainly something that KPU and the city could easily discuss and move as we move forward.
That's great. The conversation's on there. Thanks.
Okay, any more questions? Well, thanks very much for your presentation, and I look forward to the conclusion of your investigation and seeing the barn built. So thanks very much for coming, and that's a great presentation from both of you today. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Great, thanks. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the Richmond Animal Shelter Public Art Project. We got a fun agenda today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm here to present the report. I have nothing to add to the report, and I can answer any questions.
Okay, any questions on the art project? Would somebody like to move the motion? Linda moved to second. All those in favor? Carried. And I forgot to mention earlier, we have two referrals, one from Alexa Liu and one from myself. Alexa, would you like to make your presentation? Okay, I see Alexa's name was there. Alexa, are you there? Okay, let's wait for Alexa and
Harold, she's asked me to put it on the floor. Could I move the motion and bring it up?
Yeah,
So maybe
please do.
she wasn't going to be there, so maybe I can put it on the floor.
Yeah, okay.
Her motion is that staff analyze the concept of a designation BMX track and neighborhood pump track and report back with potential sites, estimated costs, and possible funding sources. And I would so move that.
Thanks, Bill.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Everybody was wondering where you were.
I'm sorry, there's a bit of hecticness over here, but
Okay.
it's under control.
There you are. It's on the floor.
Thank
Okay,
you.
any discussion of the referral? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary? Carried.
Thank
Okay, I
you.
hope you got my referral on an email I sent around 2:30 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
It's related to discussions we're having earlier today and later today. We're getting some progress on the Steveston Museum. We're getting progress on the Steveston waterfront. And I'm hoping that we're now able to talk to the Musqueam and get some progress in terms of the National Heritage Site designation that we looked into. So I'd like to make a referral to staff that staff prepare an update on the National Historic Site designation for Steveston Village for the next committee meeting. And then I've given a list of what we'd include. The designation to include the area from the Britannia Shipyard National Historic Site to the Gulf of Georgia National Historic Site. And I don't need to read it all out. You've got it there, but
I'll second it.
included in the motion for staff. And that avoids bringing in all of the Steveston Harbor Authority lands. It restricts it to the 2 National Historic Sites and everything in between. So I've got a mover, a second. any discussion on the referral?
Yeah, Harold, did a number of years ago, others will reflect, did we not look to making the whole Steveston waterfront a historical site from the Gulf of Georgia all the way up to approximately Riverport?
That's what we approved.
We should have some material on that already, and that should be referred to as well to include in this.
That's right. Basically, we approved this in 2014, was to approve a very large area. And we had some objections from the Harbor Authority, and the Muskroom are on the Harbor Authority, and they backed up the Harbor Authority. I'm hoping that between now and a month from now, staff will talk to the Harbor Authority to see if they're still concerned. If they aren't, we can declare the whole waterfront. And if they are still concerned, then we would just look at our own properties.
Exactly.
So that's the idea. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary, carried. Okay, manager's report.
Good afternoon. I would like to introduce Mandy Hadfield, our new manager of sport and community events. She joined our team about two and a half weeks ago, and she's looking forward to working with us.
Okay, welcome aboard.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much. Really looking forward to working with the Richmond Sports Council and all the different local sports organizations here in Richmond. I'm really excited to be a part of the group, so I look forward to meeting you all in person, hopefully sometime soon.
Thanks for joining us. Okay, Andy. Andy was just waving. Okay, we're all waving. Okay, any other managers report?
Yeah, through the chair to committee. I just wanted to give a plug to the Doors Open event. It will be a 4-day event this year. We're continuing with the hybrid online and in-person mix of activities, with 2 online days being June 2nd and 3rd, and in-person opportunities being June 4th and 5th. Some of which are pre-booked. So if you haven't had a chance, I would encourage you to have a look at what's out there and see if there's some things you'd like to do. One of the highlights is a bus tour of the faith-based organizations on Number 5 Road this year. So we're very much looking forward to a successful event and hope we can see you there.
Okay. Who's next?
I am. I got a couple of updates. Good evening. I wanted just to mention that this fabulous weather we had last weekend coincided with opening up of our outdoor pools, and Steveston was the first to open this past weekend, followed by South Arm on June the 11th. We're also seeing more schools start to get more active, get out there more. We've got about 19 schools that have booked sessions in our outdoor pools this spring. And we're also seeing schools take advantage of our water safety sessions. We've actually had a total of 55 sessions booked in our pools to get kids ready for water safe activities this spring and summer through their schools. The second update, I wanted to just have a reminder that the City of Richmond is celebrating Seniors Week this coming June 6th to the 12th. We've got over 20 fun, free, low-cost, creative activities and events. We certainly hope you can join us for the kickoff on June the 6th at 10 a.m. where we're going to have the Mayor's Welcome as well as a walk around Minaroo Track. Certainly feel free to stick around. We've got some free triad activities like Zumba, Tai Chi, and Nordic pole walking. Hope to see you all out there. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, good afternoon. I just wanted to provide committee with a reminder about the Participation Community Better Challenge that takes place from June 1st to 30th, starting with a family kickoff event on Friday, June 3rd from 4 to 6 p.m. at Thompson Park. Staff have created a calendar with over 40 activities over the month for Richmond residents to participate, as well as a social media challenge that launches this week. Challenge participants are also eligible to win a variety of fun prizes. New for this year are some friendly competitions for aquatic and arena user groups, sports teams, and school classrooms to become the most active in their respective categories. I encourage you all to download the Participation app, join the Community Better Challenge, and track your physical activity as we strive for Richmond to be crowned Canada's most active community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is that it? Oh, Michael.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I wanted to come after reports. I just had a couple things that I thought might come in the reports. I'll be very brief. One is council was updated recently to the Alexandra Park opening on June 8th. This is the one on Audlin Road. My question is, can it be open to the public before that grand opening? There's already people opening the fences and going in there and using it, and then other people are shouting to them, and it's kind of a bit of a disruption for some of the neighbors around there. They're not sure if it's open or not. Could you speak to that?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, yes, we are aware of the situation with the construction fence, and staff is working with the contractor to secure it almost on a daily basis to make sure that the site is secure. At the same time, having enough signages at the key location to let people know that the park is still not open fully. In terms of pre-opening the park before the official opening, yes, staff is also working towards having the fence down and opening the park as a soft opening for the community to use by the end of the month or early June.
Okay, that's really great to hear. I think people are frustrated. They've been waiting for it and they see it ready or near ready. My next one is we got a memo on May 12th about the Steveston Community Center branch library character design, the stuff that's going to the public. And one of the renderings going to the public in that memo was the kind of picture of where it's going to go. And so my question was, and I've asked this before, will the northeast corner of the new building, will it infringe on the trees at the outer edge of the baseball diamond? According to this picture, it's the only one in the package. It looks like it will. So are we confirmed on that now?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, I'll speak first, and then I'll leave for Mr. Young to contribute. Our parks team is working with facilities and the consultant in terms of the tree situation. We know that fringing the baseball field, there are a berm that's in a curvilinear position and with some existing trees on it. Some trees can be saved and salvaged. Some trees cannot. So we're working hard to make sure that the tree disturbance is kept to the minimum. And I'll leave it for Mr. Young to further contribute to that.
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Wolf. Yes, we have prepared a comprehensive tree management plan, and we're working closely with parks in that specific location in the northeast corner. We do expect to have some trees that will be coming down. And in some cases, we'll be having a situation where we'll be transplanting trees, so removing them and planting them elsewhere. And then those trees that we cannot plant again somewhere else, we're replacing them according to the city's policy, which is a 3-for-1 replacement.
Great. That's great. Look forward to following along with that process. Just a couple more short ones, if I may, through the chair. We heard from the Kwantlen, and I didn't ask their staff because the question was for our staff. What was the work that Kwantlen staff, students, volunteers, the Garden City Conservation Society volunteers are planning to do this Saturday or Sunday? Is in any way, is the city assisting them? I did reach out to the Richmond Nature Park last week, and many of them were concerned that this was happening in a timeline that their staff can't get out there. There's work where they could use sphagnum to add to existing trails and ecosystems down the road. In any way, are our staff going to assist them to make sure everything that can be recovered is recovered?
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, the city is deferring to the leadership and expertise of KPU staff, namely Mike Bomford, who is quite well versed in peat and sphagnum moss issues. And I was certainly not aware of the concerns and need of sphagnum moss at the Richmond Nature Park, but I'll be following up with staff to identify those needs and see how we could find some synergies.
Great. I'll just comment that Chris Bowder and Rich Kenny would know some of the locations where there's been restoration projects that could use sphagnum, and it doesn't grow very fast, so it's really nice to get it when it's alive before it gets buried. Also, and I don't have to get a response on these two, but a month ago or so we got a Mineral Lakes renewal project update around some of the wildlife that was found in there. I would just like, if there's more to report, that we get continued information on that. I know I've heard from people concerned that the work is going on during bird nesting season when certain projects can't go ahead, yet we are going ahead. And although it was identified that no active bird nests were found, bird nesting does continue in parts of Richmond with different bird species. And then the other one is it's related to King George Park artificial turf field replacement. I've heard from a number of sport users and internationally that more and more people are choosing to not play on synthetic sport fields. They've even canceled tournaments in Canada because the games would be held on synthetic fields. And I just want to know that staff are aware of perhaps trends in that related to health of the users. I know this one has already been, the RFP process is done and the contract's been awarded, but that we're aware that maybe in the future or other artificial turf fields, maybe we need to be aware of global trends before the next replacement.
Through the chair to Councillor Wolf, yes, we most definitely follow trends through our local associations regionally and globally. A lot of it plays into location, proximity, type of field, type of infill, but we're definitely following those, and we do annual updates and reviews.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thanks for entertaining all of that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, one thing I forgot, I'd appreciate a motion to receive the Kwantlen Research and Teaching Annual Report for information to Council.
So moved.
All those in favor, contrary, carried. And it looks like no more questions, so someone move, we adjourn. And we'll
Move adjournment.
All those in favor, contrary, carried. Okay, move the appropriate motion to go in camera.